What we're gonna do here is now we're gonna actually load your hip and take it through cars, but in a closed chain way. So we're gonna be moving our pelvis on our femur. Many of you are familiar with the version of cars where you're moving your femur on your pelvis. We're gonna do that activity, but we're gonna flip it on its head. We're gonna move our pelvis on our femur. So like I said, we're gonna start with the right leg. I encourage you to have something for balance. Just feather your hands on it. I want you to do most of the work with your lower body, but I don't want your hip car and our loading there or our range of motion there to be limited by balance. If balance is a limiting factor, you might get less out of what we're trying to get here. So just have something to hang on to for balance so that you can go through full range, you can load that hip through full range and not be limited by stability. You can absolutely, outside of this, work on having less and less contact, going from a full hand to just a few fingers and just feathering your fingers to nothing at all, and then go through your hip cars. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me do that many times. You don't need to start there though, okay? If you want to work on balance and stability and all that stuff, absolutely go for it. But for today, I want full range and I want you to load that hip. So we're just gonna have our hands on something for balance to help make sure that we get full range. So what you're gonna do, just follow along with me on this one. Don't feel like you have to watch the first rep. I'm absolutely gonna hit my head on this. Let me just do that right away. So feather your hands on something, piece of furniture, wall, whatever you have accessible to you for balance. We're gonna be standing on our right leg. I don't want you to lock out that right knee. Unlock it for me, just keep the tiniest little bend in it so that we're not just hanging off bone and ligament there. If you imagine a laser coming out of your belly button, what you're gonna do is you're gonna point that laser towards the opposite side. That doesn't mean your whole knee spins out. Your knee's gonna stay over top of your foot. You're gonna keep some weight on the inside of your foot without letting it all fall to the outside. But you're gonna point your belly button towards the opposite side of the room as you pull yourself down into hip flexion. Now your back leg, truthfully, I don't care today, straight leg, bent leg, whatever, we're focused on the right hip right now. So belly button's gonna be turned towards the right side of the room. You're gonna pull yourself into hip flexion, so you're basically horizontal, or even past that if you can. Then I'm gonna point my belly button towards you. I'm gonna push my right foot into the ground. I'm abducting my hip on this right side, and I'm trying to see how far I can point it towards you. And then I'm gonna start coming up while keeping my belly button pointed towards you. Once I'm fully up, I'm gonna spin that belly button around so it points over to the opposite side of the room again. And I'm gonna pull myself down back into hip flexion here. Then I'm gonna push through that right foot as I squeeze all that right glute stuff. I'm gonna point my belly button as far towards you and that side of the room as I can. As I come all the way back up, rotate back around, so we're in hip extension, and now we're drifting our way back through hip flexion one more time, going as low as you can, open all the way up towards the opposite side of the room, and then come back up. Then belly button's gonna point straight ahead again. Now you're back at home base, you're back at your start position. We're gonna throw it in reverse. We're gonna go back the other way. So belly button's gonna start to point over towards you, staying up in hip extension. But then once I can't rotate anymore, I'm gonna start pulling myself down into hip flexion and abduction. So belly button stays pointed at you until I can't get any more horizontal. Then I'm gonna point that belly button down at the floor, all the way back to the other side of the room. And then I'm gonna come back up. Belly button's gonna point over to the left, over towards you guys. We're gonna pull ourselves back down as far as you can. Then you're gonna drop that pelvis through, rotate over to the right. Belly button stays pointed to the right side until you come back up. Then one more time, over to the left, all the way back down. Rotate through. Try not to let all the weight go to the outside of your foot as you do so. And then you're gonna come back up. Now we're going to do the same thing over on the left side. I'm going to preemptively move this again because that's a problem. And we'll do the same thing here. So remember, when you do that, what I mean with your foot is a lot of people, their tendency is to have all their weight rotate to the outside or the inside of their foot, or their knee will be doing a lot of this in that exercise. Don't let that happen. See if you can maintain equal weight through both sides of your foot, and see if you can keep that knee in line with your foot so that my knee doesn't move as I go around and I do my hip car. There's not a bunch of this happening. My knee is staying fairly stationary. It's just my pelvis moving on my femur, if that makes sense. So just bear that in mind as we go through this. Try your best. It'll get a little easier with time. Also, like I said, make sure that your knee isn't locked out. Keep it slightly unlocked. Imagine that belly button or that laser coming out of that belly button. We're gonna start with it pointed straight ahead. I don't care if your back leg is straight or bent. I know a lot of you are gonna have it bent, and that's fine, so we'll just do that. Belly button's gonna come down and rotate it over towards the left side of the room. And when you can't go any further, you're gonna rotate all the way over to the right side. So you should feel a lot of work being done on the outside of your hip. Then you're gonna come all the way back up. Belly button's gonna point all the way back over to the left side. You're gonna come back down so you're more horizontal. You're gonna rotate that belly button over to to the camera for me, so over to the right side of the room. Belly button's gonna point around. I hope it makes sense that my hand right now is trying to be this imaginary laser. I gave you guys no context there and just started doing that, assuming that you know what I was doing. Rotate that laser over to the right side, squeeze that left outer hip, come all the way back up. Give me one more, okay? So let's point that belly button to the left side of the room, keep some weight through the inside of your foot, pull yourself down, rotate it up over to the right side, then we're gonna come all the way back up to our home base start position. Now we're gonna throw it in reverse. Belly button's gonna start to point off your way, off to the right side of the room. We're gonna pull ourselves down, and then we're gonna rotate through, belly button points to the left, and then we're gonna come back up, rotate over to the right, pull ourselves down, then we're gonna go through adduction, internal rotation, then we're gonna come all the way back up. Now give me one more, rotate over to the right side, pull yourself down, internally rotate, flip it over to the left, and then come all the way back up.